Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the webinar on Getting into Retail, Connecting with the Retail Food Buyers and Business Development Advisors. My name is Dolores Serafin, and I work for Alberta Agriculture and Forestry with the Food and Bioprocessing branch. I will be your host for today's webinar. This final webinar in our Getting into Retail series wraps up by connecting with two retail food buyers who will share their insights on successfully getting into retail. These Alberta buyers will talk about their retail program, what is important, and how to work with them when you are onboarding your products with their banner stores. A business advisor from ATB Entrepreneur Centre will also join the speaker panel to share how they can work with you to become ready for the marketplace and about the ATB Marketplace now available to Alberta entrepreneurs. In this final webinar, you will come away with the ability to finalize your plan and be ready to successfully sell into retail. Before we start though, here are a few housekeeping items. If you would like to ask a question, please type it into the question area on your GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Direct all questions to the organizer and I will make sure our presenters address all of the questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded for your viewing pleasure. The link will be sent to you in an email after the live webinar. Our webinar today is scheduled for 1 hour. We are anticipating approximately 45 minutes of presentation time with about 15 minutes for questions at the end. Our facilitators today are Marguerite Thiessen and Eileen Katowich, who are both with Alberta Agriculture and Forestry. Our panel speakers are Laura Duff with Friesen Brothers, Gary Hughes with Sobeys, and Fernando Alves with ATB Financial. Laura Duff is a health and wellness specialist for Friesen Brothers, a family-owned and operated grocery retail chain of 15 stores across Alberta. Under the health and wellness umbrella, Laura looks after the procurement and marketing of categories of natural foods, supplements, personal care, and bulk foods. Additionally, she facilitates the Frank's Finds retail entry product program at Friesen. Laura's specialization in natural and supplementation categories comes from her education as a graduate of the University of Alberta in nutrition and food science, as well as holding multiple natural nutrition and recreation certificates. Gary Hughes has been with Sobeys for over 20 years, starting out as a clerk in the Garden Market IGA store and progressed his way up to become the store manager. There are very few jobs within the store that Gary has not done at some point. Looking for a new challenge, Gary took the role as an assistant category manager for Sobeys in Western Canada, based in Edmonton, followed up by transitioning to Calgary as category manager. In this role, Gary oversaw multiple categories for Western Canada in the Sobeys, Safeway, and IGA banners. In 2017, Gary had the opportunity to join a newly created field merchandising team that was focused on bringing local products to life in Alberta, which is the role he is currently in today. Fernando Alves is the entrepreneur strategist working at ATB. He specializes in providing strategic and valuation advice. Having owned businesses in the food industry, coupled with an MBA from the University of Alberta, Fernando is keen on using that experience to help business to thrive in their communities. So Marguerite, over to you to start us off.
Thank you, Dolores, and welcome everyone. So as Dolores said, we're going to start today's webinar with our retail panel, and our two retail banners that we have represented are Friesen's and Sobeys. And so I'd like to welcome Gary and Laura to the webinar. And to start off, can each of you tell us briefly about your local product focus or your programs and your role in onboarding vendors? Gary, do you want to start?
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Marguerite, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So my name is Gary Hughes. I'm the local development manager for Sobeys, Safeway, and IGA in Alberta. My role is specifically to work with small local suppliers to bring them into anywhere from 1 to our 155 stores within the provincial boundaries. We've created a bit of a local program where we go through food safety as kind of the first stop. We need to get that checked off, then work through distribution to our stores, followed up by getting the items actually set up within the stores. So I'm kind of the one-stop shop for all things local, from fresh items to retail ready grocery items. They all kind of go through myself within the province. And there's 5 of me across the country, so this same program is replicated in all regions. And our goal is to find items that we can scale up to that next level of being regional or national.
Thanks, Gary. Laura?
Morning. So my name is Laura Duff and I'm with Friesen Brothers. Our whole go-to-business strategy is to support Alberta vendors and producers as much as possible. So I look after the natural, health and beauty and bulk food categories and facilitate that Frank's Finds program, which is our entry to retail for small businesses. I work in a team of, there's 7 of us, 6, sorry, total category managers or directors of categories at Friesen Brothers. And if you connect with me after this, I can get you connected to the correct director, whether it's produce, meat department, grocery, deli, or bakery. But we do highly focus on Alberta made products where possible and where it makes sense, and our own specialty products too that we curate with local producers.
Thank you, Gary and Laura. So our next question is, when someone has a product that they'd like to introduce to you or to your store, who should they, I know Laura's kind of alluded to it, who should they contact first?
I can go ahead first. In the Sobeys world, I get requests through our stores. In most cases, our local suppliers will reach out to the stores and they'll direct them to me. You can contact me directly through the head office as well, but they all should funnel up towards me. And then I kind of work with our national team if we're looking to scale on a quicker basis.
Thanks, Gary. Laura?
A similar process at Friesen Brothers, we do appreciate it coming through our head office channels first, through our website, rather than through our store managers. A lot of the solicitation goes through our store managers, and they're incredibly busy managing teams from 50 to 200 staff. So going through head office is always the best route.
Thank you. And so if a supplier is lucky to get a meeting, who should they make their pitch to, and what are some of the things you look for from the vendors in that pitch? And Gary, if you want to start.
So the pitch would be made to myself within Alberta for items, and really looking for something different. We're not looking for more Me Too type items on the shelf, looking for something that makes it stand out, has a great story behind it that our customers can connect with.
Thanks. Laura?
I would agree with Gary. So connect through our contact us form on our website to get pushed into the right category manager, but then making sure it's ready for retail. Most of the products that we have received in the last year have not been ready for retail. So packaging is not complete with the applicable requirements defined by CHFA, or not CHFA, CFIA, not including UPCs, law codes, expiry, packed on or best before dates. And the one thing that I've noticed significantly on the new product send-in lately has been lack of marketing or presence on the internet. Social media is the go-to in getting known right now, particularly with COVID and sampling not being possible in a lot of regards, unless you're willing to give up full-size products or repackage into smaller sample size. I'd say the investment up front in your marketing, whether it be social media, your website, email address, even something as simple as having a branded email like info@yourbrandname.com as compared to yourbrandname@gmail.com, having a professional sort of set of resources that comes to our team, but then also is present for the customer to look for. Because I know we've just opened a store here in Edmonton on Friday, and we have a lot of new fun local products in this that this community has not yet seen. And I'm wowed by the amount of people who are grabbing their smartphone and trying to look it up. Instagram and Facebook are typically the first two avenues that people go to look things up if they're under 40. And if social media is not present, then it, not a distrust, but it makes it harder for a customer to try to understand your brand. So brand recognition is definitely helpful. And in particular, when we're trying to bring on a product that has a lot of competition in the same category, it has to stand out. So if the packaging looks more farmers market style, it may just die on the shelf here if it's going up against category leaders from national brands.
Thank you. So once a vendor gets accepted, what's the next step, or what happens next in your process?
On the Sobeys Safeway side of things, none of our local items are mandated to our stores. So they're not put into planograms. With 150 stores in the province kind of going from corner to corner, distribution and capacity can be a challenge for some of our local suppliers. So our items are optional for our stores to bring in. We work with the supplier to create sell sheets. We post them internally for our stores to see. We call out where items are available for, and then our store managers are really, the experts on their store and their demographics and know what their customers are looking for. So they have that opportunity to bring in the right items for their stores, kind of based on the needs of that. And then we work with our stores to make sure we get the items onto the shelf in the proper space. And ultimately, this needs to be successful for all parties. To Laura's comments on social media before, that is a huge one, and something we encourage our suppliers to do is to utilize the social media aspect to identify when they're in stores now, so their customers can be directed to our stores if they were used to seeing it at a farmer's market or just only able to order it online. Being directed to either a Friesen, Sobeys, Safeway store is really kind of what we're here to help you be, as opposed to shipping potentially product online.
Thanks, Gary. Laura?
Definitely agree to echo Gary's statements. It's not guaranteed. Some products we will force distribute, and that depends a lot on the vendor's distribution network. If it's existing with a distribution partner that we use, like a big name one like Unify or Purity Life or something local, or if the brand itself has distribution capabilities to all of our store locations, which is a challenge with mostly doing business in rural Alberta. We do have a centralized distribution partner out of Edmonton that we will facilitate some brands to go through to get to our stores if it's the right fit and if it's the logistic needs. I guess the biggest challenge typically with small brands is that distribution element and getting their product into stores. There seems to be a lot of assumption that as soon as you're listed by us or by Sobeys or anybody, that we automatically take on that big element, which can be very expensive, both to us and to the vendor. So thinking about your distribution and how you can get to stores, do you have a reliable partner existing, or are you able to distribute yourself? That's the expensive and troublesome element of it's easy to get listed, then you got to connect with either the category manager or then store manager or department manager, depending who's looking after it, to get that placement in the store, because it's not guaranteed at all 15 locations, but the distribution is typically the last, the sore spot, if you will, to getting it into stores, because we can't. The number one question or assumption that happens to us is, okay, can we drop it off at your central distribution? We don't. Friesen Brothers have a warehouse of our own. We have multiple vendor partners that are distribution partners that we can work with if the product's right and it fits. But distribution is typically the hardest element to getting the product in the stores and on the shelf.
Thank you, Laura. So if the vendor, is the vendor required to start all of your stores, or can they start with a specific location or geographic area within Alberta? Gary, do you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. With our program, we can start in as few as one store. We have the same program really set up for any number of stores as long as we're working within the provincial boundaries of Alberta, and there's no expectation for all suppliers to be in all 150 stores we have. Something like honey or coffee are probably the two best examples. We almost call these hyper-local items, where a coffee from Slave Lake or Hinton might really only be relevant in that neighborhood because the other neighborhood has another one that would really compete with it. And the customers for something like that want to support as local as they can. So no requirement to be into all stores by any means.
Thank you. Laura?
Agreed. Often we will want to try a new product in our busiest store. So that's in the past, it was Stony Plain and Fort Saskatchewan, our most metro locations. And then going forward, now that we've opened Rabbit Hill, we will most likely test all brands here first. The distribution is the easiest. And then we'll see if it's a fit for our brand and our customer base.
Thank you. So I think you might have answered this one, but how is the location selected? If we can give a little bit more on that. We kind of answered that, but if there's a little bit more, Gary?
From my standpoint, typically I'll work with the supplier to know a little bit more about their product and potentially what kind of demographic it would be targeting, and then look at our stores that way. We have some stores obviously that do better with local than others, so always able to work with the stores the suppliers to come up with a couple of target stores, and then it's really up to the supplier to pitch that product once everything's all set up and approved for that store, as I'm not able to mandate items out to our stores. But our stores are super receptive, I would say more than ever during COVID, with that urge to support Alberta-based businesses to get the products into the stores. Sometimes if we only have product to go into 2 or 3 stores, I almost have stores fighting to, pick me, to get it into that store. So.
Thank you. And Laura, anything else to add to that one?
With Friesen Brothers, since we're a much smaller operation and each of the category or program directors manages both all of the elements of it, from marketing to price point to merchandising to sales and onboarding and removing companies, we select based on where we think it's going to fit the best and where we might have the most ability to supervise it, and that's why we pick typically the metro locations. If it is a hyper local product, say something in the far north, like we took on a salsa company up near Valley View, which is a really small Alberta town, that we would start hyper local, and then when it does well, bring it down here, because again, like Gary said, some things that do well in their towns or within, say, a 300-kilometer radius don't do any business in the south side of the province. Like things that we see great success with up in the north, close to Peace River, are abysmal results in Drumheller, because it's a completely different demographic and geographical area that they want to support.
Thank you. So that leads really nice, the word hyperlocal, into my next question. In the first webinar in the series, we had discussions around understanding the language of retail. Can you share some common terms used and what they stand for with the audience? And
I'm going to say Laura and I probably both have our own dictionary from our own companies, but it's definitely, there's a ton of different abbreviations and acronyms out there. I think I learn a new one every week within our company. Something like DSD, direct store delivery, is one of the most common ones. As a supplier, I think probably my best advice would be, if you don't understand, ask right away. We fully understand when we're working with you as a small local supplier, you're not General Mills or Kraft. We appreciate that, and I'm open to answer any of those questions as they kind of come up. Being two different companies on the panel here, I'm guessing we probably have different acronyms for the exact same thing as well. And we're not doing this to confuse you as much as you think we are, but yeah, I don't have a specific list. Happy to answer, I guess, those questions, but there's a ton of them out there. If you're unsure, ask. The other opportunity is ask your peers. There's a great network of local suppliers I know that work kind of with each other on some of these type of things. That's another great avenue to go down as well too.
Thank you, Gary. Laura, do you have any kind of common ones that you get asked about lots?
No, the only thing I can think of top of head that we get questions about is payment terms and understanding net 30 or net 60 or net 15. And I would highly recommend that when you approach a retailer that you have your financial terms and conditions created, because that's since we were preparing to open Rabbit Hill, one of the things that slows us down in getting new products set up is our accounting team chasing down confirmation on financial terms.
Thank you. And one of the other questions we had is listing fees are often part of retail. And can you tell us briefly what that encompasses, and if you have a listing fee or if there's other types of fees that a new vendor should be aware of?
Through our local program, we do not charge a listing fee because we're not mandating items into the stores. When we see great success of an item, let's say within the Alberta market, and there's that opportunity to cross into BC or Saskatchewan or all of the West, or even better, nationally, at that time listing fees would be part of the discussion. Listing fees vary by category. Something like yogurt and ice cream, listing fees are very expensive because there's a couple of big players in those categories that in some cases pay to try and keep you off the shelf. But I would say listing fees are negotiable, and they would be dependent on a store count more than probably anything. If we're only adding the item to 20% of our stores as opposed to 100% of our stores across the West, that listing fee is going to vary depending on that and depending along with the category. As far as other fees, there is other fees that kind of come into play as we scale up through our local program. We don't charge these fees, but there's DSD fees, there's rebates, there's promotional funding we do look for. If we're looking to put an item on sale for a week or a month, if we want to make it $1 off, we're looking to share that discount or for you to provide funding to our stores to support that. So those type of fees definitely come into play as well too. But again, I think when it comes to the rebates and that type of stuff, it all depends on kind of the scale and where we're going. And a lot of those type of things can be negotiated as well too.
Thank you. Laura, do you have anything else to add?
So we don't have listing fees, and at current, we don't plan on adding them in. That's one of the great benefits of doing business with a local small retailer. You're unlikely to have listing fees, but what we do ask in exchange for that is promotional discount off of the first order, free fill. We want to try to make it as less risky to us as possible by bringing it on. And if it's a total dud, in exchange for having no listing fees, because those listing fees can be in the thousands of dollars for some major retailers, that we, if it's the first case free and we put it in and it's doesn't sell, then we can give it back to you after the fact, or we can donate it to the food bank, and no harm, no foul to anybody. I would say come armed with a marketing planner, and most retailers, like Gary said too, we want to share the cost of the discount to the customer, and that is one of the biggest incentives for customers to purchase a new product is if it's on sale. A lot of small brands in COVID were doing BOGO on new listings. So we were doing a bill back on invoice on new items to incentivize people to try them, particularly if there was like multiple flavors, like a kombucha company. It was buy one, get one free, and then we bill back for the second bottle after the fact. And bill back is when we look at our movement report after the fact and charge back to get a credit for the items moved. So we paid full price going in, and then we billed back on the promotional items, so 50% of all the bottles sold in that segment. But it opened up opportunity for customers to try it. The most resistance and often the biggest failure we get in small companies is clutching onto that cost and not having any wiggle room with it and saying, I can't discount ever, like my margins are too tight. There's a challenge there with probably having determined the cost of your products. If you have no margin to move on a promotional discount, you're going to be hurt a little bit more when it comes to picking up distribution costs later. And when those two items come together and you get distribution and then required promotional planner, it's going to eat into that cost significantly. And I'm not sure if you did that in panel or in your first or second session, but I do remember the session that we did a year ago. We talked about with what's her name from Jojo Pickles about getting to an actual legitimate costing that includes having some room for promotional planners, some room for distribution, some room to pay for yourself, some room to pay for your debts. Coming armed with that is really helpful. And again, being able to offer a promotional planner, incentivizing the customer to buy your product when it's brand new in store is my best advice.
Thank you, Gary and Laura. And we'll have time for more questions for Gary and Laura. And now I'd like to turn it over to Eileen for the conversation with Fernando. Thank you.
Thanks, Marguerite. And thank you, Gary and Laura. That was really informative. I'm just sitting here. I'm always in awe of this side of the industry because I learned so much from all of our speakers. So now I want to welcome Fernando with ATB Entrepreneur Centre and Marketplace. So thank you, Fernando, for joining us and sharing how the business advisor service can help our entrepreneurs prepare and grow their businesses and to introduce the whole ATB Marketplace. So take it away, Fernando.
Yeah, no, thank you, Eileen. First off, I want to thank the opportunity. We've been partnering up with Margaret, Dolores, and Eileen for quite a while, and all the success that we have seen from the sessions I think is kudos to you and in the added value that you bring into all Alberta's entrepreneurs. So as Eileen mentioned, my name is Fernando. I work at ATB as an entrepreneur strategist out of the Edmonton Entrepreneur Centre. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about how ATB helps entrepreneurs going into that retail path. I myself, I had a coffee shop back in Brazil where I'm from, and I had a food business here. So I'm definitely aware of like all the hurdles, the struggles that goes into it, and we're definitely happy to make sure you're on the right path to success. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. We have 4 locations of entrepreneur centers in Alberta. We have, like I said, I work in the Edmonton one. We have one in Calgary. We have one in Grand Prairie and one in Lethbridge. We do also serve all Alberta. So if you have any questions or if you want to chat with us in your rural areas, you can definitely access me or other entrepreneur strategists that might help you on that process. So as a summary of what we do, there's 3 main pillars. There's a lot of stuff that we do outside of it. For example, I'm specialized in business valuation. So I help a lot of clients that are in that selling phase or they want to purchase a business and see if that investment makes sense. So if you were in that path or that process, I'm happy to chat about that. But if I could summarize everything that we do as an entrepreneur strategist, first one is giving advice. So like I said, I had my own business, and all of the strategists that we have in Alberta, the 6 of us, we all had entrepreneurial experience where we actually been in business, and that helps a lot with that empathy part, where we really know, okay, it's a lonely role. Like you're not gonna talk with, it's hard to talk with your partner about it. It's hard to talk to your employees about business problems because they might not understand, or they might not be as invested as you if you're not in a family business, for example. So we are that another set of eyes, that sounding board that you can pitch ideas to, maybe see if things make sense. Laura and Gary mentioned about like the pricing strategy that you bring. We can definitely chat about that. So we have that empathy part, and also I did my MBA, so it's kind of bringing theoretical and practical knowledge to the table. And we share those best practices, right? So if you're thinking of a marketing plan that you have to have before going to retail, as Laura was mentioning, that is good to have, we can lay out a marketing roadmap where we would share those pieces of, okay, let's structure this so you're set when you're going to those stores. And those advices is like, there's no fee to it. Like you can be a client or not. We're there to help Albertans and really help them to be set for success. The second part of what we do is sharing resources. So if you need a lawyer, if you need an accountant, yesterday I was helping a client that wants to franchise their business, and they needed someone that understood franchise to create that franchisee agreement. So I was looking for in our network who could help them. So also grants, there might be some grants available for you that might help you to hire more people. All those resources that you are not aware of, or if you're curious if there is. I know you're probably busy working in your venture. We are there to be that bridge, and we're happy to connect you to the right things that might help you move to the next step. And then the third thing that we do is that connection piece, where we're going to connect either with our internal partners or with our external partners that will make sure that, okay, you have the right people on the table that will advise you, that would help you go through that process. And like I said, we work as a community partner. We have many partners in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we partner with, and they help with other areas, Alberta Women Entrepreneurs, Tech Edmonton. There's a gamma of players in the ecosystem that might help you, and we are there to connect you there. And if you think, okay, am I a right fit for a strategist, or am I a right fit for the Entrepreneur Center? You can think that, okay, we're helping people that are starting. They're just like, they have an idea in their mind. They're like, maybe COVID is the right time, give me the right opportunity to start an outside hustle or to start a new business. This is a perfect example of clients that we work with, but also in that growing stage. I help many clients because of my experience. I have many clients in that process of, okay, maybe I'm acquiring some equipment to produce more, or to get more savings, or reduce the cost of operations of my business. We are there to help look at the numbers, see if they make sense, maybe help with some lending. So we're there on all the stages of a business. There's no cap of how much you make in terms of revenue to have a strategist work with you. And yeah, we're there in many areas and in your lifespan of your venture. And people maybe that like are struggling, we've been receiving a lot of inquiries from people that have been struggling through COVID, and they don't know how they can change their business. So maybe we'll have a talk to how to turn your business more digital, how to enter into e-commerce, and like I said, there's so many opportunities right now to see how to pivot. There's a chance to see how to make change in your business, and we are there to support you. And also we help with that financing piece. So either you are coming to us that you sorry, would you go to the previous slide? So if you're in that phase where you I need maybe some lending and need some money to scale my operations, sometimes we require a business plan. So we'll walk you through that business plan writing part. We will also, if you're planning to apply for crowdfunding, or if you're doing some, if you're pitching to investors, we're familiar with that process. So we'll definitely be a sounding board and help you with suggestions there. Next slide, please. So this is the part where I brag about ATB a lot, and I think this is one of the reasons why I joined the company, is that I saw that ATB is very unique in the way that it helps entrepreneurs, and it really cares. Like it shows by the way the programs that we do, the things that we offer. Like myself, I work for free to help Albertans every day, and it's very unique. No other financial institution is offering it. And one of the things that I like to share, and I think is really relevant for this crowd, is ATB Booster. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with crowdfunding, but basically crowdfunding is an opportunity for you to raise funds without needing to repay it. And the way it works is you create a project, you create an idea, and you say to the community, okay, I have this idea, maybe I want to go to retail right now and I don't have all the funds, would you help me? So it would create a video talking about you and talking about this idea, and then people would go to ATB Booster and they would say, okay, I like this, I want to invest in this, and I want to help this come true. So they would invest some money in it, and in what we call boost, and then in retribution you just give them a perk depending on how much they give. So you can be creative on creating many levels of perks, and like example, $10, if people boost you $10, you give them a signed letter of thank you. If you give $100, you give me maybe a sneak peek of your new store. You're the first one to see it. So you can be very creative and create experiences, and it's a great way to get market validation. Laura was mentioning having that social media platform, that social media and branding recognition. This is a way to get some exposure and get those funds. You have some examples here that I selected, is like when Wild Winds Brewery, they raised up to now $10,000 to create this new craft beer. I think another good example is from Edmonton, Sugar and Spice. They raised $54,000, if I'm not mistaken, to actually create their new store, and now they have been running in Edmonton for a while, a very successful case. So it really shows that you can be creative and find alternative ways of raising funds. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I think this one is another great example, and as Margaret said, I was going to explain about ATD Marketplace. It's a new project that we created. I think it's been running less than a year, but basically we noticed a market gap where clients weren't having, they either didn't have the technical expertise to run or launch their new e-commerce platform, or they just didn't have the funds, or it was maybe too expensive for them. And then we've created a solution, which is ATB Marketplace. And this is a great opportunity for you to test it out, a product maybe before you go to retail. You would sell through the e-commerce platform, and it's only local entrepreneurs. And there's no setup fee. It's only $10 per month if you're a customer of ours, and $20 per month if you're not a customer. And there's also that transaction fee that Stripe charges, and it does not go to us. But I selected some examples there of great products that we have, and people are testing out the demand and their reach within customers. One good example there, you can see beside the mask is Local Laundry. which actually was created by Dustin Paisley, which was a strategist with us out of the Calgary Entrepreneur Centre. And they're a clothing company very famous in Alberta. And Dustin just jumped full time into the business because he has seen so much growth, and it showcases our expertise in-house and showcases how he leveraged all the ATB platforms to create his brand and scale it. So if you have any questions on the marketplace, I have my information later in the slides. You can definitely reach out to me, but it's a great opportunity to get that market validation, brand recognition, and test it out the backside of selling. I had some experience with selling through e-commerce, so I know that there's some parts where you have to learn really what it takes and how you do the fulfillment. And so this is a good opportunity to get that learning curve and get some exposure there. Next slide, please. And I think this is one of the ones that are very relevant to this crowd too, is we have a partnership with co-ops and Blush Lane Organic Market, where every 3 months we get a list of our clients that are ready to go to retail, and Laura and Craig said shared a little bit of the experience of how is to find a buyer or how is to find a category manager. And it might differ for many companies, and we saw that some clients struggle going into different retail places. So we created this partnership with those two retailers where we get a list of clients every 3 months that we send them that are possible and potential clients for them, where they're going to test their product in multiple retail stores in Alberta. And then the great part is that after that test, if your product, there's demand to it, and if there's market validation for it, you have an opportunity to sign a contract or sign a deal with those retailers to have your product permanently there. So this one is focused more into clients that we want, because we want to give priority for them, right? So it's a win-win situation, but definitely if you're curious about it, if you want to know more about it, please reach out. If you can go to the next slide, please. You have my contact information here, my email, my phone. Email is a little bit better. Sometimes I'm in meetings. It's hard to answer the phone call right away, but if you leave me a voicemail, I'll definitely reach out and have some time with you to make sure that we're helping you. Thank you.
Thanks, Fernando. That was great. It's good to know that we've got all those supports out there to keep helping our new entrepreneurs get going and finding the answers they need, because it can be a pretty scary world navigating getting into retail and building your business. So I'm just going to give a really quick overview of what what resources we can provide to you from within Alberta Agriculture and Forestry. Dolores, Marguerite, and I work within the food and bioprocessing branch. So this is the larger umbrella. And within that, we have 3 smaller sections. So the services that we offer in this branch might be of interest to you as you're scaling up your business into food service or retail or even into export. So FPDC, the little purple ball on the bottom left, is our Food Processing Development Center, which is located in Leduc. And our clients can access the scientists there for technical consultations, benchtop development, pilot plant development, sensory evaluation, and interim processing services. So if you were on our webinar a couple of weeks ago when Mitch from Revita talked about using a food scientist to scale up their recipe, this is what these folks in the center can help you do as well. So that's an option for you to think about. Also within the FPDC, we have our business incubator, and clients can lease incubator space to actually produce their products on site. So that is a fantastic opportunity. Plus, it gives you access to that on-site support as if you're needing it as you're going through producing your products. BPIC, which is top left, is our Bioprocessing Innovation Center. So these folks are offering technical and business development support for the development, scale up, and commercialization of non-food value-added products and applications. So if you're doing something that isn't food and you need that sort of support, BPIC is there for you as well. Our business development unit and business development section is really where Marguerite, Dolores, and I hang our hats. And we're here to help you. And it's not just the three of us. There is a team of folks in there that are here to help you understand the opportunities to access the different market channels, right from farmers markets, where I play a lot, up to food service and retail and into export. And we're really here to help you grow your business and to expand. So we do things like developing resources from fact sheets to infographics. We offer one-on-one coaching, and we do these group extension activities like the webinars we've been holding this past month. Our biggest goal is to help you shorten your learning curve and to give you the tools so that you can make better business decisions. We really are invested in your success and want to see you succeed so that the economy in this province can continue to grow and expand. So that is all I wanted to talk to you about. I want to leave us lots of time for questions. So I'll turn it back to Dolores and take it away with the questions that came through the windows.
All right, thanks, Eileen. So we're going to start with the first question is actually going to go for Laura and Gary. If we are ready for retail into your stores right now, who should we be contacting after this meeting? And I will, Laura and Gary, if you, both of you can take it. Okay, Gary, who should they be contacting?
Reach out to myself. As Laura stated, definitely our store managers are very busy. They just funnel you back to me anyways in my world. So my contact information is being shared. So send me an email. That's the best way.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Laura?
after today, you can send it to my contact information and I can forward it to the proper program director. And then in the future, just send it through our contact us form on our friesen.com website. We are trying to get a page up there specifically for new vendors and new products for a full form fill out. That's on our project list to get on our website.
Excellent. Next question for both Laura and Gary. What is the average time it takes to go through the listing process?
In my world, if you provide, typically the biggest holdup is forms coming back to myself. I would say 6 to 8 weeks is probably average. I proved during the pandemic, if we needed hand sanitizer tomorrow, we could pretty much have it listed within a week, but that is not normal business cases. I would say, yeah, the average is probably 6 to 8 weeks from us chatting to presenting and product on shelf in the store.
In our case, it could be as quick as a week, and it could be up to several months, depending on the program director that you're dealing with and the product. I mean, if it's something that is just mind-blowing and we have a customer like demand for it, we can move very quickly on it. Other products, if we are not interested in it, obviously it's not going to get listed, but speeding up that process, like Gary said, filling out the forms or making sure you come prepared with all of the information. So having an Excel file that acts as both an order guide, but also a complete file information for the category manager or program director that has your UPCs, your description, size measure, unit cost, case quantity, minimum order quantities, minimum delivery threshold, all best before, shelf life. If you can max out an Excel file with all the information, that speeds things up significantly.
Perfect, thank you. So next question is, what does your first order look like regarding case, size for shelf space? Is it 1 case, 6 cases? Like, what are you looking for?
I would say dependent on an item. I would say on the average, it's probably 1 or 2 cases. If you're coming to me with a highly consumable item like a potato chip, 1 case is probably going to last us the afternoon. We might want to build a display, and we may be taking a half a pallet. So very dependent on category and what the turns of that product we would expect them to be.
Agreed. It highly depends on the item, incentive to purchase too. Like some of the vendors, when you're really anxious to get into retail and maybe you're sitting on a lot of inventory because other go-to-market methods have been less than successful as you had hoped, incentivizing that first order promotion, whether it's a free fill in the first case or some other incentives might be like 25% off the whole order. If it's a highly consumable item like chips, salty snacks or a beverage product, there might be some more incentive to make a display, but display space is terribly constricted, and often the big players, the CPG brands, they're paying for display space in the store, or there's pre-negotiated marketing material for display space taking place. So last minute offers tend to not go so well.
All right, perfect. Next question again for Laura and Gary. What are thoughts on new vendoring offering floor POPs? And I don't know what that means, so.
I'm assuming you mean a pre-pack or cardboard display vehicle for the product. So that's the question I'm going to answer. I think it's a great opportunity to get the product into the store and in front of the customer. Also an opportunity to try it without a huge commitment of the store having to build a display. An opportunity for you as a supplier to share a little bit of your messaging and branding as well too. Things like websites can be printed on displayers. If you've got some type of cause, that type of stuff can go on there as well too. My biggest recommendation is make sure you build them sturdy enough. We like to drag things around the store once we set them up. So I always encourage suppliers, get a sample displayer before you commit to them. Fill it up and then drag it around your shop, your garage, your house a few times, because that's what we're going to do. And if it falls over in the first week, it just wasn't worth it.
Also get it wet, because the auto scrubbers that typically clean the floors in grocery stores bump into them and get the bottom weight, and if wet, and if it turns to mush, then it will be off the floor super quick. And those auto scrubbers are usually used 2 times a day, if not more. At Friesen, we have a clean floor policy, so we don't take any of those cardboard displays. In our new stores, we require wooden racks, and we have to approve the construction of them. That's new to our company. We do take some POP displays for seasonal or limited edition product that is meant to basically be in and out, but from my understanding of the creation of these displayers, very expensive, and you won't get your money's worth out of it, from my opinion, from a vendor. Making your cases merchandisable, on the other hand, though, can be more beneficial. So a lot of snack boxes will have the perforated window that you can pop out, and you'll see this on most boxes of chips in grocery stores, and those then can be a stackable case, which lends pretty well. Or if you have a pouch product that has a perforation so that the case becomes a tray for it, that helps. But definitely check with the retailer. More and more retailers are switching to clean floor policy or more permanent displays, because the auto scrubbers, typically a lot of our cleaning staff in food retail are third party, and they come in at night and they couldn't care what they hit in the store.
Fair enough. All right, Laura and Gary, how long do you give a new listing before you pull them from the store?
We track sales of our local items every week. It's tough to define a time frame. My stores, a lot of cases, will make that decision themselves. If that first case or couple cases doesn't sell, they just won't reorder. That being said, if we put the product into 15 stores and it sells really well in one, but doesn't sell really well in the other 14, I'm not going to discontinue that product. We just may land on it's only ever available in that one store. So open to have those communications or conversations with the suppliers as kind of time goes on, but we do look at the sales very regularly of these items and encourage our stores to make the right business decision, because we're all here to sell product.
Yeah, very similar. Our stores have a lot of the autonomy to discontinue a product faster or slower. I would say that's where I particularly favor that introduction discount, so that we can discount that product, either just a moderate sale price, but then if it's getting close dated, or say it's sat for 2 or 3 months and it's getting no turns, that we can put an aggressive offer on it without losing our shirts on the product, because our store managers and department managers monitor their budgets very, very closely for margin and shrink. And shrink is wasted product or things that have to be discarded. So they are really apprehensive. However, we do find sometimes that if it's a new product and it doesn't get a lot of uptake at the beginning, putting out an aggressive offer to kind of blow it out once, or, you know, like 50% off, get some consumer interest in it, because they're now willing to try it, that it's at a discounted rate, and then they ask for it after the fact. So on all the new listings that I do in the natural category, I ask the stores to give it 2 chances. So take it in first. If after 3 months it's not selling, do an aggressive discount on it, around 50% or more, especially if it's short dated, then we have to go obviously more aggressive, and then bring it in once more, because often we may have created a customer being able to buy it at a steep discount. And then on the second attempt, if it still is slow moving, then we'll discontinue it.
All right, perfect. So the next question is actually for Fernando. So the Calgary Entrepreneur Centre doesn't provide names of lawyers or accountants. Is that something that's ever going to be available at the Entrepreneur Centres?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The way that I personally do referrals is I work with some lawyers and accountants before. I have an accountant for my business. So it's definitely like a suggestion. We don't have like institutional names that we can share. Okay, this is our proven list of lawyers or accountants that we recommend. But all of the strategists, they have people in their network that they might have worked with, or they have clients that had a good experience. So we are open to share. I can share the ones that I have. But like I said, it's hard for ATB Financial as an institution have a partnership with specific people, because I imagine that that would create some not so good feelings with other clients that were not selected, or lawyers or accountants. So I'm definitely, it really depends on the strategist. So if you want lawyers and accountants from your region, I can send me an email. I'll definitely reach out to my network and see who we can get as referred to you.
Perfect. And next question is also for you, Fernando. Is there a fee for the strategist to work with a business?
No, it's totally free. You don't have to be an ATB client. Of course, we would love to have your business, but there's no fee to us, and there's no limit to our meetings. We would just like to have that building relationship where we see that we're suggesting stuff and then you're actually executing on it, but there's no fee to it.
Perfect, thank you. So the next question is either for Eileen or Marguerite. It's been a very long process looking through government website to find information on nutritional facts. Do you have a suggestion on education or materials to educate ourselves from Alberta-based consultants?
I'm not sure exactly what the question is asking. The nutritional facts panels are part of the federal government, so this is a CFIA thing.
Yeah, and we do have the link to the information on CFIA on the labeling infographic that we provided as a follow-up from the February 24th session. And then there is some consultants, I think, still listed on the agri-services directory under, you know, the nutritional labeling kind of resource site.
So we can send out that labeling infographic again as part of today's follow-up email if you weren't part of the last couple of webinars, so you don't have it. So we can certainly send that again.
Yeah, and if you don't find anyone on the agri-services directory, you can always reach out to our branch, because someone in our network will know a consultant that's working on those specific things, and we can make an introduction for you.
Perfect, thank you. I think this is our question as well. Is there a cost for the resources offered by the business development section?
If they're on our free publications or listed on the website, they're free. The only ones that might have a fee associated are the ones that are in the publication list that have a fee. But most of our business resources are all free.
Okay, and I just noticed the time here, and we have hit 11 o'clock, and I still have questions to go. So I'm going to leave it to you guys whether or not Laura, Gary, Fernando, if you still have time to hang out with us for maybe another 5 minutes, great. And if not, that's okay. We only asked for an hour commitment. So I'll just wait for your answers there, and then we'll decide.
I'm good for 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Perfect.
Yep,
Okay.
I can hang on.
Thank you very much, everyone. All right, so next question is, does Friesen need a HACCP plan as well?
We do not need a HACCP plan. I should say with an asterisk, it would depend, of course, if you are dealing in produce or meat. Those items have other specifications that they need to meet.
All right, thank you. Next question, if our product is in trials with the FPDC, can we still start the conversation in frozen product category? So can we submit the samples for quality review? I'm not sure if we know that answer, Eileen and Marguerite.
Is the question for us or for Gary and Laura? I think it depends, like if it's able for market, your food technologist would be able to tell you that if you've done all your testing and food safety and have your plan. If there's product ready for sampling, that would be a question for Gary and Laura at retail. But again, as we talked about through this whole webinar series, you have to be ready for retail before you know, you're costing everything. So you don't want to go too soon. If anyone else wants to add, that's my first thought, if I understood the question right.
I would recommend being ready for retail, getting all the way there, because otherwise it starts this really long emotional process, it feels like, that we get too involved too early in the process and it just extends longer than it needs to. Just come ready to go.
Awesome, okay.
I would agree with that as well too. Come as ready as you can be. I mean, you might not have final production, but if you at least need to know your costing model and as many details as you can check off prior to presenting.
All right, this again is for Eileen and Marguerite. What are the costs associated with the government resources page you shared? The cost of mentorship of a food scientist, for example.
That you'd have to look on the specific website. They do have the costing model listed on the food processing development site's website on the cost for working with the scientists in the center, because they are a fee for service.
Okay, perfect. What type of affiliations or labels majorly help your product sell from a big box store? Gluten-free, made in Canada, made in Alberta, etc. So Gary and Laura?
I think gluten-free, obviously, vegan, any of those type of things you can make as claims will probably open it up to another group of potential customers. So make sure your claims are all valid. Made in Canada, I think, is probably a great opportunity unless you're really looking at that hyper-local. Made in Alberta, because if you're ever looking to expand beyond our province, people don't really care so much about made in Alberta once you get out of the province.
I would just add, make sure that your claims are substantiated. I have been seeing gluten-free claims that are not certified gluten-free. So I follow a handful of the social media groups in the Alberta area for gluten-free and vegan, vegetarian. I would say go all the way with those claims, not part of the way. Putting gluten-free on a product that's not certified gluten-free just opens us all up to trouble.
Okay, this is kind of like a follow-up with it. Are products that go through the certification of gluten-free, keto, etc., making a difference in the sales? Like, do retailers look for these registered logos when considering bringing in new vendors?
For myself being captain of the natural category, yes, certified gluten-free still holds a great deal of weight in the marketplace. I don't think that that's an allergy or a fad that's ever going to disappear. Some of the, and then non-GMO project verified it's lost its momentum a little bit. But if you are paying the extra money on the ingredient side of things to get non-GMO ingredients, go all the way with the certification. If you want to be at a lower price point and not get for your ingredients and for the retail price point, and you don't want to go through those hoops, that's fine too, but you may find yourself then organized in the area of the store in like conventional grocery because you're not meeting the requirements for non-GMO or certified organic or certified gluten-free. And if you, and be careful with the claims that you make on your label, because that's also a giant category that has a fair deal of mistrust in it from the consumer side of things. Even if you follow, I highly recommend that if you're in that sort of niche, the natural organic specialty side of things, that you discreetly join these social media groups, whether it's Gluten-Free Edmonton or Vegans and Vegetarians of Alberta, so that you can see what the consumers are talking about. In the gluten-free category, they want certified gluten-free. And there's still even a lot of chatter in there of, because of course it goes down to a parts per million of the protein available, and some people are extremely sensitive to the point where I've been yelled at in my own store for having gluten-free and gluten-containing products close by, because some people are highly sensitive to it. So you can discredit yourself if you put gluten-free on the product, but it's not certified gluten-free. Because they're going to then now question your methods. They're going to question what your parts per million count is. Is it made in a facility that is certified gluten-free or certified free of some other major allergens like mustard, nuts, soy, dairy, those types of things? In that niche category, go all the way and see what your consumers are saying online.
And we have gone through all of our questions here, so I would like to take this moment to thank Laura, Gary, and Fernando for sharing your experience and expertise with us today. I always learn so much when we have these webinars, so thank you very much, everyone. After the webinar concludes, there will be a very short survey that will appear on your screen. We would definitely appreciate your feedback. So thank you to everyone for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.